this is now getting to a point where it's unpredictable.
It is unpredictable, and you know they did we were talking about the Thanksgiving bit on SNL the other night, and you know the family arguing over ISIS and immigration and Donald Trump and Ben Carson, and just the list goes on and on and on. And people are so polarized, and I really. I've never seen it like this. I mean, I try to think back on times. You know, the Nixon era. That was very difficult because you had the civil rights movement going on. You had Vietnam. You had the decline in confidence in government with what happened with Richard Nixon. But I'm not sure that this isn't trumping that, for lack of a better term.
Well, you know, the thing back then, you know, you were reliant on a half-hour news broadcast
Right.
on the three networks, and then wait for your next newspaper or you know the 2-minute summary at the top of the hour. Even for those who ate and lived and breathed this stuff.
Yeah.
Now, you know, the discourse is not enabled by 24-hour media. You know that dissect everything, have talking heads, none of whom know what they're talking about. And campaigns that are made for Twitter, that are made for the outrageous, and then are covered over and over again. It doesn't generate any confidence. On the other hand, you do have to blame the media to a great degree, because they're getting numbers out of this, and now you see at a time when their numbers are hurting. They're seeing a little gravy train here, and so they are gearing their coverage toward the sensation.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is I was flipping around, and as you watch whatever network, cable news network you watch, and let's just focus on the cable news, whether it's Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and you're talking about the Syrian refugees.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch an MSNBC. They'll put up a graphic that shows a picture of the immigrants trying to get over a wall or something. These refugees trying to come over a wall. And if you're watching MSNBC, you see photos of women and children. But if you're watching Fox News, you see angry young men, and that's all you see in the crowd. I mean, we are especially on the cable news networks. We are trying to skew the news based on our opinion.
We're manipulating.
And that, to me, there's not a better example, because if you're Fox News, you want to show that these people trying to come over here are potentially ISIS members, and if you're MSNBC, you're trying to be, you know, happy and peace. We're trying to help out the young children and the women.
See, the difficulty is, and that's very true. But the difficulty is, you know, when you had the primaries, candidates ran to the right and the Republican side, and to the left and the Democratic side, and then you knew that they had to then play to the middle.
Now you're going to come back. Yep.
Yep. This makes it almost impossible to do that, because first of all, if you're running to the right, getting constant coverage for it, you now have a public record that can be shown over and over and over and over again, you know, later on in the campaign. The second thing is Fox, even MSNBC, rev up the motors of you know, the extremely partisan voters, and they're the ones ultimately then that get to drive the nature of the election. Now, I mean, who would have predicted that these issues that we're talking about today and yelling about today would be the issues that could allegedly dominate the campaign next year? Now, I still have some hope. I still have some hope that both parties have a tradition of nominating the most sensible candidates. No one has voted yet, and so I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Well, and
for now, this is pretty ugly.
Even on the Democrat side, who would think that a Bernie Sanders would have any place in this race right now? He's so far to the left. He's basically denounced capitalism. Yet he exists. Both sides tend to be so polarized. And then, and that's my observation. Now, my question for you is: you've been saying all along Hillary Clinton is not going to be there. Can she beat? If they pick the right candidate on the other side, can she win? And is there a need for another person to come in? Maybe it's Biden.
All those questions, hypothetical answers. The deal isn't closed on Hillary. First of all, in the primary, even a Bernie Sanders as kind of the anti-Hillary vote is actually doing fairly well.
Yeah.
In Iowa and New Hampshire. More importantly, I think when you see the matchups of Hillary versus each of the leading Republicans, she's not doing very well.
Right.
She may lead by a point or down by 3 points, but in most instances, she's only polling. Her numbers are in the low 40s. For the best-known name in the country, that's not good. You have to almost conclude that if she's polling in the low 40s and everybody knows who she is, then that's her ceiling.
Yeah.
And so, believe me when I tell you the party establishment is biting their fingernails right now, and there still can be somebody waiting in the wings.
And quickly, with losing so many House seats and all the governorships that the Democrats have lost, I was reading a story over the weekend that basically says, the farm team isn't there anymore to build these people up so that they can run for office. Democrats have an issue there.
No, it's a real problem, and yet if they don't have a good top of the ticket, they can't get those seats back, and they should be going into an election cycle where the demographics are on their side. But, young people, minorities, if they're not energized, not that they're going to vote Republican,
right?
They're not going.
They're just not going to vote. Yeah.
John,
that makes it a scenario very similar to the congressional, the off-year election.
Uh-huh.
John, we talked to someone from Fox News the other day. I think it was Tanya Powers. It may have been Rachel Sutherland, but she said heretofore she couldn't imagine a President Trump, but now she could. Do you see that as a viable possibility?
I don't. I really don't. I'm not there yet. I'm reading about that. I'm looking at all the numbers. I still think, it's 80-20 against that happening.
Okay.
There is a ceiling, and I don't think that he's shown the capacity to go past that ceiling. He's not there yet.
Well, you're seeing Ted Cruz and Rubio making a gain. Carson is dropping back. So that could be the beginning of the end where, even though he has those numbers, a lot of that is because, people, we like winners. We like people who are in the lead. And if you start to see somebody else take the lead, you may see people jump ship and go with a Rubio or a Cruz, or who knows, maybe even a Jeb Bush.
Very possible,
Yeah.
Somewhat less possible.
Interesting stuff there, John. Never seen anything like it. Pretty crazy. We appreciate your time.
Anytime. Take care.
It's ZogbyAnalytics.com. So we're getting it all in today, what we couldn't get in during the Thanksgiving dinner, right? The rule was no talking politics at Thanksgiving. Kristine will have an update coming up bottom of the hour. Another free money question of the day coming up as well.